facility shed. I define it as a little tiny shed, nothing to be alarmed
Little
about.
tiny shed for $250,000.
So we're talking about I don't remember the plan. I think it's 3,000 square feet.
Do you have a site?
Yes,
Where?
up by the turf field.
Right next to a potential
A little
solar
conflict
field.
there.
No, I think it's right next to that.
No, it's on. Tom's
It's
been
glad
Glad we
eyeballing it.
fleshed that
He's
one
been.
out.
Well,
There's
there's another
multiple-
site too.
there's
There's
multiple
other
sites.
sites, and
Yeah.
one of
No,
them is
If it-
closer to
yeah,
the
it's on the high school property. That's
right.
Yeah.
that's all.
Right,
Yeah, that's
and,
good
but
enough.
one of them that we've been discussing is closer to the turf field, and it would act as a concession stand and his storage complex. So that's another possibility.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's
Right.
fine. I mean, it's
We-
nice to know about these things.
Right.
Do you have a
yes.
design for the building you said?
We
We
do.
do.
Yes.
How tall is the first floor?
It goes up at least 20 feet.
20 feet for the first floor?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, the storage portion, and then there's a, I won't say livable space, but
I mean, how high is the ceiling for the garage area?
more than 20 feet, just above 20 feet.
So there's nothing from ground to 20 feet?
Correct, and it goes back, say.
Oh, and then you have like a mezzanine or a balcony?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And there'll be storage above that, but I forget the dimensions, but I want to say 40 feet back. 20-foot high ceilings to get equipment in there, and future expansion
So
equipment.
you're expecting to have a lift system and a crane and all
No.
that? And then we can have an automotive school.
No, not quite
No,
there.
the motor pool doesn't come till year 10.
That can add on later.
I'm just trying to figure out why we need 20-foot high clearance if we weren't putting lifts in.
I gotta
Well,
tell you that I
storage.
have a barn,
I know you do,
3,000
yeah.
square feet first floor, and the ceilings are 16 feet high.
Okay. I don't know how
You
high
have a
the
lift in
ceilings
there,
are.
right?
I got 5 lifts.
Wow.
Oof. We don't need to waste a lot of time on this one. we got a water
Rent
system
space
coming
at
before
Raoul's.
it.
Yeah.
You could, yeah. Because like my vision, personally, is to move the not only co-op but the district SAU facilities to what you might see at another district, which is more self-reliance.
Or like
Um,
Brookline?
Nope. Nashua, Londonderry, anywhere, I mean, a gator per se, Londonderry probably has like 8 of them, it's, snow plows, any other school district, has a truck and a snow plow, times 5, 6. We currently, have a contract with a vendor for snow removal. I'd like to move away from that in the future.
Why?
Because we have people who ask me every day, why don't we do it ourselves? I'll do it. I was like, okay.
And do you tell them about the cost of having those people as permanent full-time employees and the cost of insurance and maintenance and all the other things that go with owning that type of a business?
It wouldn't be a business, it would be a school.
It becomes a business. It becomes a business.
Well, how do the other school districts do it?
They have enough need to require it when you talk about having 20 or 30 schools and things of that nature.
We're a little bit off the.
And I'm wondering if it should even be on here though.
Okay, well, I mean, we could spend all night spinning our wheels, which we're doing right now. Although I can
Look
save
at
that for the end of the meeting.
Look at the timing, Tom. That's the budget we're going to be working on this year.
Yeah, no, I saw that year and I quickly moved it.
I have a feeling a lot of those things will move. It always does, yes.
But we have to put it on there. So I put it on there. So yeah.
So one more question.
Yeah.
Are the numbers for this fiscal year that you're showing gonna be shown in the first pass of the budget for the?
You
in other
talking
words, are you gonna aggregate?
FY26?
FY
Yeah,
26?
FY26 and then add it?
Well, we started that way in July. I don't know if what that will,
Okay.
when you guys get the budget, we've probably already moved some things or crossed out some things by
Okay.
the time you guys
All
get
right.
it.
So I would say, Ro, because the FY26 number is 1.779 million,
Yeah,
a
There's
lot of
no
that stuff's
way.
not going to make it.
Right.
okay.
So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Because that's why the number is the way.
Yeah, that's the July. This is
Right.
the
So,
July.
so are you gonna
June.
tell us what made it?
Well,
And it's,
Yep.
we're gonna discuss
Well,
it.
we're
Alright.
gonna
Yeah,
get
you'll
there.
see it. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah,
once-
you'll see it on our new item spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah.
Oops. So future discussions. Again, energy efficiency in the co-op. We discussed that at CFC. Parking, storage facilities, storage/facility solutions. Storage is at or the more enrollment we have, whatnot. Staffing coming in. Believe it or not, a lot of storage goes by the wayside. And the more people, students, community we have, storage is the first to go, unfortunately. Again, we talked about the water solutions. This is stuff we already talked about, and so we're always thinking ahead and how we continue. And that is my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? I went way too long. I apologize.
It's alright.
No, it's a good
No, it was
overview.
good, and I'm glad we,
Good insight.
asked some questions
Yeah.
along the way. I think it's always important, and, we do this every year. Look, and the new items portion of the budget is a, great way of looking at things. It shows the phases, the thought, and the decisions that get made along the way, and teeing these things up, because we would have heard this in June. It's important for us to remember, we're still finishing,
Right.
finishing the last of the roof at the high school, we have to move on to the middle school. And it's just important to keep, for us to remember the things that have to be in rotation and unfortunately might have to get pushed and things like that, so.
Yep. I like to say we just throw stuff against the wall, but we don't.
No.
These things come up and on a daily basis, once in a great while, and we jot them down, we keep them, and we try to budget for them the best we can. So.
Well, I think the audit tool has been a great resource.
Yep.
Over the last, we've had it now for a while. So I think that helps, and you would refine that along the way as well,
Yep.
so.
We make improvements every year,
yeah, yeah.
or changes. Yep.
Yeah. So great, seeing no other questions, as a committee, we'll look forward to all of you working on the, input for the budget for the, upgrades for the middle school and get, kind of refine some of the, methods for financing and things like that as we work our way through the budget process. I will just mention, this is kind of part of the discussion, Tom, that would go back to the board as well, but it's related to this because our bond funding or lease funding is related to, these types of capital improvements. One of the items that came up at the Hollis, Budget Committee meeting, and one of the follow-up items that the chair of the committee, is gonna pursue is contacting each of the school board chairs, as well as the superintendent, to talk about kind of aligning the vision for those projects that are gonna require that long-term financial commitment of the town. And the focus from the Hollis side was because they see eventually, bonds coming up for the Farley building renovations and things like that, and just wanna make sure they had a sense of, how the districts were gonna be pursuing any kind of long-term financing and the impacts that might have on the community. So he was gonna be reaching out at some point. I would have expected, I haven't heard from him yet about it, cause he was including, the budget committee as well as the boards. And, I anticipate that he would be coming out with that
Who
shortly.
would it be?
Tom Guillen. And, again, just to have that like larger conversation, I know that as a SAU, you're always kind of monitoring how projects fall and, contract negotiations and all of those impacts that they have to the budget. But this was to get more of that, impact to the town view and have an understanding of, what's going forward, so.
Now, when you say impact to the town, is it just understanding the contribution that it may make to the overall tax burden?
Yes, for the town,
It's
and
not a
their
co-
perspective is on the town of Hollis, so.
But only cost impact, not other impacts.
Correct. I mean, the thing that, because it's a group of people that are, paying attention, for example, they know we have a bond rolling off, final payment in FY '26 for the middle school, and, had heard, oh, wait, you're financing, potentially looking at a long-term financing solution for something in your, coming off in '25, looking into '26, it kind of just made a few heads go, well, wait a minute, why are, it's just everyone needs to just have an understanding of what's happening, and we're early enough in the process. So what I shared with them was that there had been a committee looking at all of the project itself, putting more attention to it, looking at the financing options and things like that. But I would say personally, the districts have to manage the districts, the towns have to manage the towns. There's obviously an impact to both communities of something that the co-op does, from a tax rate perspective, but, we, as a school district, we do kind of are really trying to time financing solutions, so as we see something drop off, we can add something, and while it would be fantastic to put something toward the community and have a year or two where we say, well, we can enjoy the fact that a bond dropped off and we don't have that payment, sometimes it aligns better to just kind of say, okay, well, we did finish that payment and we're moving on to something else, because these projects are paramount importance and they need to get done. So it's just kind of again, it was just aligning and making sure everyone's kind of aware of what's going on, but I don't think it necessarily like precludes the co-op from moving on whatever its plans need to be. It's just kind of having an understanding of where the capital.
Coordination is good, alignment is good, situational awareness is also good.
Right.
Right.
Mhm. I think that's a good way of putting it, the situational awareness, so, yeah. So, anyway, we should be hearing something about that shortly, I'd say. So thank you very much, appreciate it as always. I apologize again for the delay, and appreciate you taking the time. I know it's a busy time of year with the school, getting things underway for the year, so thank you so much.
It was actually a perfect time. Because the school opening, now it's kind of calmed down a bit.
For the next phase.
One quick question, the monthly first Wednesday of the month meetings at 4:00 here,
Mhm.
is there any possibility of changing the time of those meetings
To
later?
later.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the representative from this committee to that other committee, but I find that it's hard for me sometimes because it's just too early.
Is there a Zoom option?
We haven't explored that, but we certainly can.
Yeah, I mean,
I think, I'm somewhat in the same camp as you, but the push was, other people wanted it earlier because of the overlap between it being school staff and
I understand,
community staff.
I mean,
So I don't
right.
know whether, I know at the last couple of meetings, the administrators left the meeting to immediately go to other meetings. So
Right.
that may have to go to different
A
days.
different day,
If
yeah.
you were trying to move it later, because, I think the
Wednesday
way
is our
is
meeting
that
day.
Brookline that's immediately after it? I think,
It was either it was
Ho-
probably
Hollis,
Hollis,
Oh,
because
Hollis, yeah.
Hollis is
Ha-
the
has
first
their-
Wednesday of the month
has
as well.
their meeting immediately after ours.
Right.
on the other hand, being only one day a month, and we'll try harder to make sure we're here.
Well, great, thanks so much. Appreciate all the effort that goes into
Thank you.
maintaining our facilities really do, look fantastic, so,
More importantly, they don't break it.
yeah, I don't.
No, seriously, our schools stay open. That's really a win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the buildings are in bad shape at all.
Oh, no, they're in good shape.
Well, great, thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Lance. We can move on to the year-end financials
catch you later.
for FY '24.
Okay.
I'll email you.
I will direct everyone to directly go to page 2 at the bottom.
Thank you.
That's the big news of where we ended FY '24. That number is, we'll be giving $658,304 back to the taxpayers.
Whoa.
We had budgeted or anticipated, if you will, $200,000 to go back to the taxpayers, so that's a difference of about $450,000. And this year is sort of a repeat of previous years in that the reason for it being larger than 200,000 primarily is because of vacancies and savings in certain areas that we've typically had, and one being special education. We have, 584,000 in an underrun there for special ed, and there's various reasons for that. But that's a big portion, or big reason why that number is 450,000 more than we thought it would be.
Was that the primarily contributor to the savings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, there's not I don't want to bore everyone and go through every single line there. There's an explanation page that gives you the details of that. But overarching, it's because of vacancies and special ed savings.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Oh, so that would then definitely affect going forward special education aid as well,
Yes.
because if we had those savings, they are potentially on some of the larger out of district placements or things like that. And, those are the things that typically qualify for special education
yes,
aid.
and
So.
some of those were definitely out of district.
And I'm just looking at the revenue piece, see that the
Yeah.
aid is up a little bit, I mean, not substantially, but just a little bit
Right.
higher, and,
But we do try to adjust for that every year.
Yes,
It's not just a
absolutely.
static number,
Yep,
so yeah.
yep.
Right. But in terms of the overall revenue, it probably will go down, yes.
And is this the last year on the building aid?
Oh, I think there might be one more
Like
year.
25,
26, I think.
26 also, okay.
I think.
I know it's coming close to the,
It could be
And-
25. Yeah, it is very close, but
Yeah.
maybe it's 25 then. I'm not sure.
Kelly, I think it was last year, we were worried that this year, FY '25, special ed was going to be particularly high because
Yes.
of some unanticipated during budget. Is that looking to be true?
Well, I think it's in a better position than we thought originally, but I think it is going to be high. I don't know that, I mean, a few months ago we were talking about having to use the special ed trust. I'm not sure that we will be in that position now after all because of some changes that have occurred. But it's still going to be higher than we probably budgeted for, yeah.
So the pendulum, as far as going from a particularly high surplus, is likely to be
I believe
possibly
so.
going the other way.
I believe so, and especially next year, I believe you're gonna get some sixth grade students in,
Are you talking
maybe-
26?
I'm sorry?
You're talking next year,
Yes,
26?
yes, right, I believe I'm not sure if it's both districts or just one, but yeah, there's a couple of heavy hitters in sixth grade right now.
Yeah, 'cause I was reading the MS, whatever it is, 25?
25.
That I was reviewing today, and I was surprised to see so almost 2 million, I think, in transportation costs for
Yes.
special ed in '24,
It's easily done, yes.
and almost 20% of our overall budget is special education
Yeah.
expenses. And so, and 24 was a low year, it sounds like.
Right, exactly, yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty significant. I mean, and on the other side, the co-op, I believe there's a couple of students aging out as well, so that helps, but, more is coming and more significant is coming, yeah.
and just as a reminder too, that the students don't, age out until they've completed their 21st year and turned 22. So it isn't just a 17 or 18-year-old who would kind of graduate.
Right,
the
no, yeah,
services
it's,
continue.
it's a
in
much
some
longer
cases.
period.
So if you graduate, say at 18, and go to college, you still will still have a liability through their 20.
No, they're still our students. They usually graduate when they're 21 or 22.
Okay, all right,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
What's been happening to our out-of-district placement? Has it been going, just the number, has it been going up significantly over the last 4 or 5 years? Well, what's the trend been?
I don't think it's significantly, but it's been going up definitely.
Are you
Just
talking
the
number of
cost-
students or cost?
The cost
Oh,
per
costs,
student.
costs I know, but
I think the
per
number,
student.
I think the number of students have been going down, but what's been going up is the cost of contracted services.
Oh, very definitely.
Because we're having difficulty hiring specialists,
yeah,
and the cost of contracted services have almost doubled and tripled in the last 5 years.
Wow.
So the hourly rates are tremendous. The
So-
stuff that's been quoted, sometimes it's 4 to 5 times the cost as what it would be if we could hire people
Right.
to provide the services, but they're not available. So if you look at the number of students who are going out of district, our directors have been very successful at bringing programs in
Right.
when we can
that's
staff
really
them.
why I asked the question, so I appreciate your response.
Right.
I mean-
In our elementary schools right now, we have 400,000 in one district and 600,000 in another of contracted paras
Yeah,
because we can't fill those vacancies.
Wow.
Now, the co-op isn't quite there yet, but we can't, there's other, like, for instance, there's school psychologists here in the middle school. We haven't been able to fill that position, and we're contracting that out, and that is like $200,000.
wow,
So, the kind of programs that Amy Rowe, she
Yeah.
started a movement, and that legacy lives on, and
no,
the
she was
philosophy.
really good at that,
Right,
yeah, okay.
and
What-
we're still good at that, but now it's a different problem with contracted
Yeah, yeah.
services in our district.
But for me, anyway, I can live with that. It's if we need programs, we should get the programs. And you're
Right.
saying we're trying to get the programs, we can't get the people to run the
Exactly.
programs. That's unfortunate, but nice
Yes.
try.
Yes, right, exactly. We keep trying as well to hire those people, so.
Yeah.
Great, well, thank you. I'm glad to see the slightly higher amount. It always helps the tax rate at this
Sure.
time of year.
Absolutely.
So, but we do keep, especially based on the kind of input from the auditor and things like that. I mean, I definitely look at something like almost $600,000 in savings in special ed as something that it's just, it is not something that we can count on every
That's
year.
windfall.
And the pendulum it just seems to feel like every time that happens, it swings the other
Oh,
way.
it will.
In the following year or a subsequent budget that we're talking about.
Yes.
And it's just the nature of the types of programming.
It
that
really
we
is,
have,
yeah.
so.
And we need to make sure that in any briefings moving forward, that's the highlight that we need to emphasize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when we present how much is being taken, we preface it by, because of unusual and exceptional situation,
Mm-hmm.
we are
Right.
able to.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because otherwise, I think we've done a good job of budgeting. It's,
Yeah.
some of those, it's all the unexpected stuff
Oh,
that,
yeah,
yeah, causes.
Mm-hmm.
this is a
All
big
it takes
business
is-
you're running.
Yes, it is.
All it takes is a 2-student swing,
Yes.
moving in or out of the district to make that kind of a difference.
Yeah.
Great, we can move on to a quick discussion of the FY '26 SAU budget. I'll just go over some of the highlights. There was a meeting yesterday, the first meeting of the subcommittee. Unfortunately, I was unable to participate. I did provide some input to Mike Levitt, who was the Hollis Budget Committee representative, and I did provide the same input to Kelly. And essentially, as a result of the transition from Superintendent Corey to Superintendent Bergskog, there are some savings realized in the salary lines that make the increase going into FY '26 minimal, like under 1% of a budget increase. So really, there are, placeholders in the budget for a new assistant superintendent, some reductions to support staff. This information is on a draft progression sheet that was shared as part of our meeting materials. There will be slight reductions in the rates for NHRS, and I anticipate there might be some changes to health and dental. There was a meeting in Concord today about some of the potential increases, and my understanding is that going forward, rather than us getting a GMR now that gets revised later, Health Trust is going to be coming out with an overall rate increase that we're just going to, it's going to be what the increase is going to be.
Right.
I don't know what that percentage is, but they are definitely shifting.
They're gonna, and later in the game, or?
No, now, at this time of
No.
year, this October, November timeframe, they're just gonna give an increase, and that's gonna be it. They're not gonna revisit it
I
later.
don't see how that's a plus, but.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
Because
not.
they're gonna take a conservative approach, and they wanna.
Well, yeah, I
for
was
them,
on Health
conservative
Trust
for
for
them.
many years,
Yes, you
I know
were.
how it functions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
That was
apparently there were
pre-lawsuit,
big
wasn't it?
doings in Concord
Oh,
today.
yeah.
And, lots of,
No, that was in the middle of it.
lots
Oh,
of
it
input
was?
was shared. So I'll just
I'll
leave it at
bet.
that.
Ah.
They're trying to get all this stuff in before the election, probably.
Unfortunately, I wasn't in attendance at that meeting, but,
Or
yeah, I'm
maybe
sure
it's a
there were.
good thing for your sanity.
Yeah. So I don't know what that increase is going to be. So I appreciate you have the 8% in there now for health insurance. It could be higher, which could drive the budget
Yeah,
a little bit
it could.
more. There were some additional requests to adjust the 4% increase on the salary lines. So based on we had a past budget, the governing board made some adjustments to salaries going into this year, and then the 4% or whatever contracted increases were allowable were made on top of the revised salary numbers. And then there were some additional proposals to increase the HR director and the facilities director another couple $1,000s each above those, and very modest travel reimbursements and things like that. So those are all outlined on the draft. Kelly, if you could just reiterate the going forward calendar for the next view for the SAU budget.
Right, so the committee, when they met the other day, decided to push forward the budget that we presented to them to the governing board, which they meet on, I wanna say it's October 10th, I believe. So they will give us input on what they want to do with the budget as well. We may or may not have the subcommittee meet again based on that discussion. And then, but we will finalize in November, and it will go to a public hearing in December.
Okay.
Can I just make one comment, cause
Sure.
you really got my goat on that. I was on Health Trust for over a decade, and almost every year I was on it, the rate went down
Yes.
from the, not up. So that really fries my butt, excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, it should. Especially when this year that we're in, we have an 18.6%
I saw
increase.
that, yes, no, I know.
I know, so now, I mean, everyone is in fear that we're gonna get another 18.6 increase, and it doesn't have
What's
an
the first number
opportunity to
you
go.
throw on the table? You throw a high number to cover your own butt.
Exactly, but not anymore,
But-
yeah.
Well,
The
sorry.
thing,
Yeah, no,
the thing I will say is that the real costs of medical services has gone up a phenomenal amount. You look at, and again, again, a huge part of that is that they're having difficulty hiring staff. An awful lot of increases were subsidized federally during the COVID periods, much in the same way that the education was, and those have all been withdrawn. So
Yeah, but
no, I'm just saying that I have no love for the insurance business for the way that they do it. But I think that here's where I'm going with it. If you look at how our SAU has weathered the storm compared to the national averages, we've been surprisingly below. That 18.6% that we hit is versus an average of 25% in the state increase. Will they still differentiate district to district or SAU to SAU? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because we've been working very hard to manage costs in the district, and I assume the SAU overall, with the exception of
that's always been the case. We've always had a healthy
except for one
group of
district I know,
people.
which isn't ours.
Okay, I'm done, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I feel better, sorry.
No, it's okay, don't apologize. So thank you for, breaking out the timeline. I will say, at that 10-10 governing board meeting, Tom, wasn't there also gonna be what was the presentation Barrett
Yeah,
Christina was gonna be doing?
I was gonna cover that in
Okay,
the-
we'll get
yeah.
to that, great. So thank you, Kelly, so we'll, any other questions about the SAU budget? Okay, and we'll go right to Tom then with the update from the September, school board meeting.
Thank you. The long-awaited land swap was approved by the board. We were told it was also approved by the select board in Hollis. So our understanding is that it's just a question of getting it getting it done legally, but what that'll mean is that the co-op will now own all of the property on which this building sits.
Amazing.
So what they're doing is they're taking a little bit of land at the end of this building. It's going to get received by the co-op, and a little bit of land at the end of the gravel lot will get transferred to the town. And the reason that's important is that the school board wanted to get that resolved before entering into any discussions about impact of work at the Farley building. So that clears that.
Oh, well, that was smart.
Darlene?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, Tom.
Just to interject, I was involved with this, so it's my understanding that the change has been recorded on the deed, so the planning department approved it already. So we're all done as far as the legalities go for this. It's a done deal.
Excellent.
Oh, great.
Next item is there was a memorandum of understanding signed by or approved by both the HESA union and the co-op school board to the real change is to the caps for the healthcare to address the 18.6% increase that came through. The resulting increase is just shy of $40,000. That's the monetary impact of the change.
When does their contract come due? A couple more years?
No, this is the final year. So they're in negotiation on the full contract now as well.
Oh, so memorandum plus,
The memorandum
Yeah,
is
no,
retroactive to July
July, it's
1st
for this
for
year.
this year, and then we'll
And
be
then we'll have a
presenting a
contract as well.
contract at the district meeting.
thank you.
So that information was included with the minutes from the board meeting I had two attachments. One was the board meeting, and then the breakdown of the,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw it, I just,
Yep.
yep,
so I didn't see anything about the contract, and it sounded like, I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
they're separate items.
So we're gonna have an initial plan or draft contract presented to us in, February, right? Or,
It'll
Probably
probably be earlier than that. The Hessel ones usually wrap up fast.
HESA usually sails through, yeah.
Wrapped up fast, so I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if you have that in late December or January. Cause
Okay.
they're already at work on that.
okay.
Stipend committee has started, or is going to be meeting, it's been formed, and that is to look at the general, level of stipends that we offer for our, co-curricular, extracurricular, and coaching positions. The change that was recently approved by the school board is a new stipend table, which is a standalone item. It is not a part of the contract. Because it affects people who are not otherwise district employees and things of that nature, but it is keyed to the, salary table in the sense that, the tiers are structured as a percentage of, bachelor step 1 salary to allow for cost of living adjustments to stipends. Now, every year, the stipend committee will meet and review stipends in multiple contexts. One is this still an appropriate, activity to be stipend? Is the, stipend in the correct lane? And that's looking at how much time is involved, how many students are impacted, what's the workload on it, and whether or not there are any new positions. So all of those will get looked at by the stipend committee that includes, administration, board, and, staff as well. And then they will bring that to the board for, approval each year.
And would that be a line item in the budget?
Do you break the stipends out as a line item in the budget, Kelly?
Yeah, I believe they are.
I don't know if it's a standalone. It may be rolled into another line.
I think there's like 2 or 3 different, line items that, like,
Because some goes in athletics.
yeah, there's definitely one for athletics, there's one for like, performing arts, and one for after school. Yeah, so I think there's 3 or 4.
But I just want to be clear that, what I just described is for extra and co-curricular, not for
Right.
coaching. Coaching has its own structure, which they feel is more appropriate to those positions. There was, some preliminary, information given to the board, which I suspect has been received by some of you as well, about this whole tax cap thing. There's a lot of concerns about what it means. And, it's more questions than answers. Understanding how it will impact what budget can be presented, and how it will impact how, what option the board may have to do, because what our concern is, we may get pushed into a position where we're back in the old days, where the budget committee has to go forward with a budget that's constrained by that, and then the board has to come through with a budget as a proposal to amend that would reflect what they think it needs to run the school. Because the budget, if there is a tax cap in place or a budget cap, it doesn't matter what you think is necessary.
Right, and the if is the critical
Yeah, Brookline
phrase there.
Brookline
Right now, we
has
don't
it.
have one, so we
Right.
can continue
Yeah.
what I think has been, and I think
Yeah.
everyone here would agree, has been a very effective way
Yeah.
of evaluating
So basically,
wants, needs,
what it
and
means
how
is
we end up as a budget.
it makes it imperative that the public understand the impact if one is proposed or introduced so that they can make an informed vote as to whether or not to adopt one.
And it truly is a difference between a tax cap and a budget cap, because of the expanded language, it could be either.
Right. And then,
Are we talking statutory here
Yes,
or town?
yes, statutorily.
well, it's, they passed legislation that allows it, which means that there may be proposals on a local level to introduce it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, will be.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real concern in Brookline, because Brookline does not have a budget committee. So the board has to abide by it and can't, they can say what an alternative is, and so they'll have they have a capped budget. But the big deal is now the cap includes all warrant items.
Right, the
Previously
tax
it was,
cap
yeah.
has to now apply to the total budget as opposed to just the operating budget.
So if they come in with a professional staff contract that gets
It needs to
negotiated
go
up, it could in fact pass it. Because, the co-op, to make the adjustment, agree or don't agree, it was 10%. Their cap is 8%. So it could come to a case where they have to propose a budget that they don't feel funds the schools, and on top of that, the default budget, because they're SB2, is even lower. So who can propose, it means that, and it has to happen at a deliberative session, that someone from the public would have to present and defend a budget that's not coming from the school board. And I don't even know if the school board's allowed to speak to an alternative budget.
Maybe a legal opinion should be,
Oh, they're trying to suss it out. This is all new.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
new
and
territory.
I can't remember, I thought there is a provision to override a tax cap, and
Mhm.
isn't that like a 2/3 vote or something like
Yeah,
that?
the school board has the ability to do that. I don't know what the details are.
Yeah.
But can they do that when they're also the budget presenter?
I think there was one year we did do that.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
because of, yeah,
So,
Okay, well,
anyways,
we'll
but
continue,
I just want, the sooner that the folks here who have a hint of this can start getting their friends and neighbors up to speed with the realities of such a measure, I think the better, rather than trying to fight it on the floor.
mhm.
Right,
And-
and our attorney Jim O'Shaughnessy is gonna attend the October board meeting in Brookline to go over this with
Oh.
the board.
That's great.
Right, and they're going to record it and make it available
Oh, that's great.
for the public.
Next is we don't have a date, but there is support for having a special meeting to look at the Articles of Agreements. Highest priority is to clarify the ambiguity or the lack of definition around using municipal leases. Because when the Articles of Agreement were written, municipal leases didn't exist for that category of funding, so they were not specified. We would like to have the option considered of specifying them in the Articles of Agreement so that there is no risk of them being challenged if someone wants to use it. And the reason municipal leases offer a couple of advantages: they have a lower threshold for approval. They also have different options as far as both the cost of the leases, and my understanding is sometimes I'm not sure if it's the refinancing option or the early termination option, but there's some greater flexibility that make them desirable for some situations.
And Tom, just to, I think one of the things we might just wanna look at too, just because I really just don't recall, on the apportionment formula itself, I'm not sure,
Yeah, I don't
If
include
it-
the lease in that
yeah,
section.
I don't
Yeah.
remember how we
I
addressed,
think we
like,
worded it in such a way that it wasn't a formality of it being bonded, it was considered a capital
Right,
expenditure,
right.
long-term.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yes, we should.
yeah,
The issue about scheduling things is that our moderator is going to be unavailable, I think, for pretty much the entire month of January.
Oh, boy.
And we don't wanna wait till February to do something, so we're looking at, the option of having an alternate moderator
or I was gonna say,
available.
can he appoint an assistant moderator?
They can, or in some cases, like we've had a moderator from one of the other districts
Right,
step in, so
yeah,
that's all being considered.
okay.
But time is running out. How long, I would think you'd have a decision by now. I understand
What do you
you
mean
have
a
problem.
decision? On what?
Well,
It was just at the last meeting that
I
it was
know it
brought to us.
was. I read the minutes,
Yeah.
and is the board fully behind this and got energy to push this forward?
Oh, yes, no, what we just don't know is when we can have the meeting.
Right, but time is marching on, is what I'm trying to say.
We're trying to well, from the leasing standpoint,
All I
It's-
want to know is when the meeting is. That I don't.
I'm just gonna say, from a leasing standpoint, having the meeting late isn't a big deal, it's just hitting the technicality
No,
of doing
the
it.
big deal is you've got all before the district meeting, your agenda is full. Every week you've got something, so you've really got to knock this out of the way early, like in January, as you say.
Right. The answer is no. That it's not resolved. And I don't know when it will be resolved. It's not something that I'm personally involved
Whose
with.
plate is it on?
The superintendent and the board chair.
Okay, all right.
And they are looking into it.
And
But they said that they're comfortable that they could come forth with, specifically with regard to the facilities work that we're doing, they could come through with a proposal for each option. They'll be pursuing getting funding estimates for both options, both bonds and leases. And if push comes to shove, then potentially, they did it in other districts, they said have warrant articles with both funding mechanisms.
No, I get all of that, but that's not the way to go into this.
No, but I'm just, I'm
So
Okay.
if I understood the minutes correctly, Tom, because of the date of the last approval from an apportionment perspective, we can't, the special meeting can't be held prior to, like, the 5-year anniversary of that date.
Right, if we want to include apportionment
okay.
on it, we have to wait until after,
Like January 30th, for example, like, I
yeah,
think January 29th was
I
the
think it
date.
was either
Mhm.
the 29th or the 25th.
Something like that, yeah.
But if we wanted to deal with it just on the topic of leasing, we could do it earlier.
Oh,
Yeah, but why wouldn't we get apportionment out of the way too?
Because the question is, if we can't have the meeting till February,
February 4th.
right, the position that I took is I would only support that if the board is saying that they want to put forth a no change proposal.
No
Oh.
change to the apportionment?
Right.
that's allowable now. It used to not be allowed,
Well,
but it's
last time we did
allowable
this,
now.
I
there was a
thought that's
$1
what-
change.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we were trying to do.
The
Right.
$1 change,
No,
right?
but if someone, that's where there's not necessarily consensus. If someone is pushing to say that, no, we wanna have an option of a different formula, then the support is that there should be an article to form a committee.
Okay, yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Because that's just gonna, that'll get all convoluted, and then it'll blow changing the Articles Agreement out of the water. So, okay. I just did, I read the minutes and I didn't sense, the
Urgency?
urgency that I feel.
Okay.
So, I
Okay.
got it now.
Lance touched a bit on the CIP planning and stuff, but I just wanted to let folks know that an element of that planning was also putting together information for Brookline for their impact fees planning. So they're specifically identifying the portions of the CIP that can be used potentially as elements of impact fee planning for Brookline. And I know that has been discussion about it within the Hollis community as well, about whether or not they want to look at doing that, so that we're learning how to do it, so that if Hollis decides to do it, we can give it to them too. They're identifying items that they feel are related to enrollment, basically. And then the last thing I have is that on October 10th, the SAU Governing Board is meeting at the RMMS school. Meeting starts at 6. Probably going to have on the agenda starting at like 6:15, something between 6:15 and 6:30. A training session conducted with Barrett Christina, the director of the New Hampshire School Board Association, and the specific topic is helping board members understand how to work with the public as far as bridging that gap between being a member of the public, being an elected official, how to field questions, what the role is, how as a board member they can and cannot act on their own behalf, the whole thing. And maybe we think it'll be valuable to the board members, but also valuable to the public to understand what they can and can't expect a board member to do. And in the case of the Budget Committee, I think there's overlap there as well. It's going to be conducted primarily as a question and answer. We have a list of questions that we're going to pose to them, but also allow the board members, and if time permits, members of the public to also introduce questions.
Is there gonna be like a Teams or a Zoom meeting to be able to at least listen to the discussion?
The board meetings are all televised. I don't know that there is anything other than observational capability, but it's also going to be recorded.
Cause I'm gonna be out of town, but I would love to participate if possible. At least listen and.
Well, you can certainly stream it. It's going to be live streamed, but
So are you gonna publish the link someplace or?
it's on
It's on the
the
website.
SAU
It's
41
on YouTube.
website.
Okay.
In general, we do not have Zoom capability at our meetings. For board members, we sometimes allow them to call in, but that's about it.
What's that date?
October
10th.
10th.
And it's gonna be done
Oh.
locally?
Wow.
At
It's at RMMS in Brookline.
Okay.
And then I will just tag on one more meeting in October is your next co-op school board meeting is on the 16th, Wednesday the 16th. And at that meeting, Drew Mason, our moderator, is going to be in attendance to address the questions about the flow of the annual district meeting.
Ooh.
So that would be an opportunity for budget committee members.
And
To
when
some
would that
degree,
be again?
that area
The
is
16th.
that element, I believe, will be open as like almost a joint meeting if you and Holly decide
Yep.
to do it that way.
Yeah, I can post it as that also. I mean, I don't anticipate there being any action by the budget committee. And what time do your meetings start? 6?
6.
Okay. So I'll follow up with both
I'd love
of
it
these
if you
dates.
post it because I would enjoy being able to talk,
Yes, absolutely.
as you've noticed. I
Seeing
talk.
how the whole meeting's your fault, Tom.
It's true, you are the one who requested it.
No, I fault and credit.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
I'm gonna be out of
you
town on both
you
meetings, both dates.
identified something that resonated with many members.
Oh.
And then the next co-op meeting is the following week on the 24th of October.
Next budget committee.
Budget committee co-op, yeah. So it's governing board on Thursday the 10th, co-op school board on Wednesday the 16th, and co-op budget committee on Thursday the 24th.
So the 10/16 is the co-op school board.
School board.
I hope-
Great, that sounded like a busy meeting for September.
Well,
A lot of topics, a lot of
I
ground.
mean, coming up or?
No, the
past?
September one, the things you just covered,
What time does this board meeting start?
6.
Thank
Which
you.
one? Well, they're both, there
Both.
wasn't 6 yet.
Yeah, no, that one.
It's interesting, it wasn't actually a long meeting. The biggest discussions were around policies, some of the new policies, some of the stuff that's been pushed through because of the Title IX changes. Are you gonna talk a little bit about the NHSBA?
I did share with everyone.
I know you said, I didn't know if you have any, because I wasn't able to.
Oh, okay, well, I did share, they do share the presentation
Yep.
materials at those NHSBA webinars, and, let me just pull
Just
I know one of the
wondering what
folks you
your
sent
take
had
is
that
of,
briefing.
of what was.
So one was the presentation, that Barrett Christina gave, and his, I don't remember the name of the person, who works with him.
Was it Will?
It was
Phillips?
a woman.
Oh, woman, no.
It's either Megan or Becky.
It might have been Becky. And then there was also a legislative summary, that just gave, it was a more complete list of, what passed in the components, and, and it actually has like the bill number, what RSA is impacted, if any, and, some more information there. I did find interesting in the webinar information, there was added kind of as like an omnibus act for determining parental rights and responsibilities. They added a requirement for posting for a requirement for every district upon receipt of funds that they receive by allocation or grant, a posting in a public place within 30 days of receipt. So, for any district that submits grant funds and submits reports and receives them, while that wording doesn't say it has to be posted monthly, districts receive grant funding monthly
much
based on the
monthly, yeah,
reports that
right.
they submit, and then a report of that needs to be posted within 30 days of receipt. So that's a new kind of public posting requirement that was put on all the districts. And there was some confusion. I had attended, right after that webinar, I attended a grant overview, and it was very interesting to hear the perspectives of who thought whom was responsible for posting that. So some people looked to the DOE and said, so how are you gonna provide that
Oh my
information?
God.
The DOE was like, we don't know anything about that. We don't think that's our responsibility. And again, because not everybody in the room is in charge of financial reporting, the financial people are going, oh, well, we know exactly what that means. And other
Yes.
people are like, oh, no, you can just, download that from the website. I'm like, no, you can't just download it from the website, and things like that. So it falls into that same thing with trying to interpret what's been put out there and figure out what the real impact is to something like that. And in that case, it's the first date of implementation was like Monday of this week, and everyone's looking at each other like, what are we supposed to be doing? So, it's just some of the things that came out were,
They said there were 300 bills
yeah.
affecting education.
Mhm.
Wow.
And at that point,
300.
they already had, I think,
crazy.
170 or 180 teeing up for this session, and they were already actively tracking 80 of them as LSRs, waiting to see what was coming up. So there was they specifically talked about literacy. There was one relative to literacy skill development in elementary grades. That's not gonna be an issue for this district. There was a requirement that all graduates, or seniors needed to file a FAFSA. That's been revoked. They just need to be provided information about how to file a FAFSA, for, when they're starting college and trying to receive financial aid.
Well, no, it was a big deal because it took a huge amount of time out of the classroom activities because the school staff were responsible this year for getting the kids to fill out FAFSAs unless they got a waiver from their parents saying they didn't have to.
So now that's changed, effective, it was effective July 1st. So now they just have to be provided information on how to do it. They don't have to be like,
They don't
our
have to
staff
walk 'em
doesn't
through it.
need to work with them
I
to
remember spending a
walk 'em
lot of
through
time
it.
years ago writing FAFSA.
There
forms
was,
for the kids.
required information on student ID cards, they had talked about assessments for certain statewide academic areas, just, it looks like, the areas of academic assessment would be reading, language arts, math, and science.
Did they talk about the new apportionment of SAU budgets?
They did, it was the very next one. They didn't, and Barrett talked about the fact that, that is up for, it can be done and there you can approve a different apportionment method. He didn't feel like, it was really gonna impact a lot of communities.
Well, when we looked at it, the person, maybe it was it, I think it might have even been this meeting last month, they said, no, I think someone looked up it and said that every member of the SAU has to approve it individually?
Yes, each district in the SAU that's impacted would have to approve it individually, as
So-
opposed to it,
Aggregate.
an aggregate like we do with the actual budget. It's each individual
So if any
district.
one constituent district does not support it, it isn't permissible currently.
Correct. So that was one of them. They talked about the school sports, that was HB 1205, with participation being determined by, biological sex at birth and birth certificates being required.
And that's currently under injunction for any individual district that petitions for it or something? I think that's the current status. Nothing was done on an overarching state level, but individual districts who oppose it,
He basically encouraged you to contact your legal counsel because it's in direct conflict with federal regulations,
Right.
so. They talked about, high school students serving as school board members. There was an amendment that said the high school students don't need, I think there was an interpretation of attending every meeting and what that means. Does that include subcommittees and things like that? So it repealed the requirement that student members of school boards attend all school board meetings.
Well, these are voting members, I think. Some towns have voting members.
Wow.
Some towns have their students as voting members.
I think they have to get elected, but I'm not sure.
They
Life is
do
getting
have to be elected
complicated.
within their school community, yes. They can't be appointed by like a board or the principal. So there was the one about mandatory reporting requirements, like the font labels of your graphs, paper sizes and whatnot for, various things, including, the top 10 highest paid administrators, 10 years worth of data related to cost per pupil, but you could determine what calculation you're gonna use for cost per pupil.
things
So
like
for
that,
example,
posting of
at-
school
so at district
expenses, teacher
briefings-
salaries.
At district briefings, you gotta have a minimum size font so people can see it, is that
For
what?
the specific reports that they're asking for, they have to be formatted a certain way. They don't need to be, because not everybody has like an annual meeting like we do, and some are SB2, they just need, they need to be, posted and
Right.
available.
Right.
But
We
it
should
doesn't,
put them on billboards.
yeah.
Just
So
leave it with the
tempting.
town clerk's office, right?
So again, how you do it and how you accomplish it is to be determined. That one doesn't go into effect until, July first of
year.
next year.
Thank God.
Yeah. They do anything useful at all?
I would, well, you know, so.
Well, you don't have the
Sure,
answer to
still
that, I'll
on
answer
that.
it.
Yeah, so,
I didn't hear a whole lot of things that I would consider positive coming out of it.
Yeah.
And certainly not things that make it less expensive and better for the student in terms of allowing people to focus on educating them.
Right.
It's become very bureaucratic.
they did, allow for, email, dissemination of some, special education information where it used to be like paper copies had to be sent, they'll allow email versions, things like that. So, they really hit the high points. I mean, they definitely didn't go through, 150 bills. They did talk about the tax cap issue and the link to the possibility of, an increase being related to being tied to CPI, yeah. No policy impacts for local districts, however, districts should familiarize themselves with the new calculation for budget caps and any impact on any current or future budget or tax caps. So, and it's effective, going forward, so. Yeah, and just various things, credentialing, doing background checks, yeah, so. Veto day is scheduled for the 10th, and there is a link of the early filed, LSRs for this session. So if you go to the link that's in that presentation, you can see some of the things that are, that they're tracking. They might not all have even been assigned an LSR number yet, definitely not a bill number at this point, but at least you can get an idea of where things are going, because those LSRs are not gonna be on New Hampshire Legiscan right now, when they're in that LSR state, they're in, tracked this other way, so that at least gives you a preview of what's happening. But I was happy to see that the presentations themselves are available, so if, one person just gets on and just to get the download and registers, it'll be available and we can share that information, so.
I can't imagine how we would get any kind of grasp of this if we weren't NHSBA members.
Yeah,
I don't know of any other group that's consolidating them and
yeah, there are some law firms that go in and put together summary documents so that they can disseminate them, but even, it's a subsequent discussion of within districts, who's in charge of reviewing those documents and saying, okay, from a finance perspective, Kelly, you need to know about the implementation of things that have financial impacts, but the curriculum impacts and, which assistant superintendent in whatever district is looking to see what the impacts are and implementing them and the timelines. It's a big effort when there are that many bills that get addressed, because like I said, at that webinar, they got to, a good cross-section, but they certainly didn't get to all of the ones, and that's why they provided the additional summary to kind of go through that and see what's what, so.
thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, I'm glad we got all the dates, set up. We'll move into October's meeting, talking about preliminary guidance, so I'll have information, for everybody prior to that meeting.
And without any other questions or agenda items on tonight's, agenda, I'll look to Mr. Enright for our
I was just,
Process.
what is the major topic for the next meeting?
preliminary guidance.
That will be on October 24th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent meeting, we covered a lot of territory. Good day.
Great. And with
Love it.
that, I'll take
love
a, motion to adjourn at 8:26 PM
I make a motion to that.
from Raul, seconded by Tom
Tom.
Enright. And a roll call, Tom Solon.
Tom, aye.
Tom Enright.
Yes.
Raul.
Yes.
Darlene votes yes. Tom Whalen.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time this evening. Have a good night.
Good to see you, Tom.